Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Wendy. I am the program coordinator for the Family Engagement Department, and I work with families in both Hacienda La Puente and Pasadena Unified School Districts. And now I'd like to welcome my co-presenter, Karla.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Karla. I'm a program coordinator of the high school Pasadena Unified School Department. Our amazing team members that were on the webinar tonight helping us with a variety of tasks. So we want to give a huge shout out to Ariane Armony from the iHeart College team, Daniel from the Hacienda La Puente High School team, and Natasha from our middle school and family engagement team. Thank you in advance for everything you'll be doing on the webinar tonight.
And so for tonight's webinar, we'll be sharing a little bit about College Access Plan, which we will refer to as CAP, how we support students and families. Then we're going to follow up with a financial aid overview on some key elements to ensure that your student is maximizing their financial aid opportunities. Then we're going to move on to factors that students and families should consider as they're building a well-balanced college list. As we look at college options and costs to ensure that students are looking at a financial fit as well as an academic fit, we want them to have a well-balanced college list. Finally, we will leave time at the end of the session for questions and answers. And now I'll pass it on to Karla.
Thank you, Wendy. So, College Access Plan, also known as CAP, is a nonprofit organization that offers free college readiness programs to support students and families in preparing for college. We serve students and families in Pasadena and Hacienda La Puente Unified School Districts. We know there are many amazing pre college programs to choose from, but one of the things that makes CAP unique is that we welcome any student within our districts and our grade levels. There are no requirements to participate or attend. We work with all students regardless of GPA, family income, and immigration status. We want families and students to know that we're a safe place to get support, and our end goal will always be for students and families to know what their college options are early so they can make the best informed decisions for themselves. Okay, so CAP is on 10 high school campuses across 2 school districts. Drop-in programming is after school twice a week from 3:30 to 5:30, except Los Altos, which will be at 3:45 to 5:45. As mentioned, there's no application needed to participate in any of our programming. All you have to do is show up to our drop-in program, which is the beauty of that model, when we're on your campus on the times designated, and we can assist you. Students do not have to be there the entire time. We do bring snacks. It is a chill vibe for students who are wondering, and they're welcome to use the space for as long as they like to do homework or work on essays and other things. For more information or to learn about all of our services, please visit our website, collegeaccessplan.org. The link will also be hyperlinked on the slide. Wendy? Oh, sorry, this is me. So now that we've learned a little bit about CAP, let's get into affording college. So financial aid is the money you receive to help make college more affordable. FAFSA and the California Dream Act are applications for financial aid. This is the very first step. Students will apply to either FAFSA or CADA, depending on their citizenship status. If students are applying to private colleges, some might require the CSS profile. The information provided on the application gets sent to each college the student would like to receive it. So now I'm going to pass it off to Wendy to discuss more on what happens after that application is submitted.
Thank you, Karla. And if you're wondering how all of this works, we start off with the student who is the applicant. And as mentioned, students will only need to apply to one of the financial aid applications based on their status. So in this case, it's either the FAFSA or the California Dream Act, which we will often refer to as CADA for short. Based on the responses provided on the application by the student and parent contributor, the financial need is calculated. This may be met from one or more of these sources that are shown on the right-hand side. As you notice, the financial aid that comes directly from the federal government is only for FAFSA applicants. However, the remaining 2 sources of state and institutional aid are open to both the FAFSA and the CADA applicants. If your student is applying to a private college, they may need to complete an additional application called the CSS profile. Up next, we'll get to one of my favorite parts of this webinar. Now, why is this one of my favorite parts? Because scholarships, AKA, is free money that your student can access and be able to make college a lot more financially accessible. Students have the most control over this portion of the financial aid because they get to decide how many scholarships they apply to. We know that the majority of students and families here tonight are juniors and seniors, but the reality is that it is never too early to start start researching scholarship opportunities. Even as a middle school student, as middle schoolers can start researching what scholarships are available out there. The sooner students start looking into those opportunities, the more informed they are of how they work through their high school years. Where are these amazing opportunities, you may ask? Well, there are several ways that you can access different types of scholarships. For starters, your high school's newsletter, websites, and social media outlets are wonderful opportunities to access local opportunities, which may only be available to students that attend your school, your district, or the city you live in. You can also explore free scholarship search tools such as Unigo, Niche, Going Merry. Are you wondering how to get to those? No worries. We will be emailing you those links. With these platforms, you simply create a free profile account to get additional scholarships that are tailored based on how students respond to the questions. It's also worth checking out scholarship opportunities through employers such as Vons and Kroger, Starbucks, KFC. Those are just a small sample of scholarships that are offered to student employees. The Los Angeles Federal Credit Union also offers scholarship for all students, and students can even access scholarship opportunities through religious institutions. For instance, a church may offer a scholarship for students who share the same denomination, even if they don't attend that specific church offering the scholarship. Sometimes you can qualify for a scholarship simply by where you live. Again, we want to encourage students to apply to as many scholarships as possible. For our students who are undocumented, no worries. We also have other opportunities and scholarship search engines that you can access, such as Immigrants Rising and MELDEF. Both are nonprofit organizations that provide scholarship lists that do not require U.S. citizenship or permanent residency of the U.S. This is all to say that there are so many different sources where students can access scholarship opportunities. Please make sure to invest that time and apply to scholarships on a regular basis. I know we've worked with many students who actually take applying for scholarships very, very seriously. And one of my awesome coworkers, Daniel, shares one of his really good testimonies. When he was a college student, he was looking at how financially money was tight. And he went to his counselor to let him know that he may need to apply, he may need to get a second job. So he was already working a part-time job and was going to have to get a second part-time job to make ends meet. One of the best advice that his counselor gave him was, okay, how about instead of working a second job, how about you invest a few hours every single week to consistently apply for scholarships? This coworker made applying for scholarships his second part-time job. And guess what? He was able to make more money through scholarships than he would have had he had to work a part-time job, essentially working full-time. And so we really, really want to encourage students to take the time. It's not an effortless process, but it is worth it. Even if a scholarship is $500 and it takes 5 hours for that student to complete the scholarship and they get it, this is like earning $100 an hour. That's a pretty good hourly wage, if I may say so myself. Next, we want to share on some tips and tricks on applying for scholarships. If you notice on the left-hand side, if your student needs help with scholarships, please do have them pop in to Cap Drop-In. We can help them with all sorts of things like Karla has already mentioned. So starting off with some tips, we want to encourage students and families to read all of the eligibility requirements first to make sure that they qualify before they start investing time to apply. You can look at if they require additional documentation. For instance, are they asking for letters of recommendation? Don't shy away from that. If you don't know how to ask for a letter of recommendation, CAP can help support you with that as well. You want to make sure that you give your teachers or your counselors or whoever you're asking for a letter of recommendation sufficient time so that they can write you not just a letter of recommendation, but a strong letter of recommendation. We do encourage students to look for scholarships that may have small applicant pools because that will improve the chances of being awarded. Look at local scholarships versus national, or if you're a guitarist, looking for scholarships specifically for guitar players as opposed to just all musicians. A little pro tip here is we want to encourage students, and sometimes you can repurpose those essays you've already written, whether it's for a class or for a college application, such as the EOP, the UC personal insight questions, or even some of the essays from the common application. Please be aware that there are some scholarship scams out there, unfortunately. And if you get a letter inviting you to some kind of dinner and that they guarantee you thousands of dollars worth of free money, please do not pay anyone money to access free money. If you have any questions about that, you can come to CAP or contact one of us or your counselor just to verify that information. Now, one of the additional documentations that scholarships may ask is a brag sheet or a student activity sheet. So I'm going to invite Karla to talk to us about that. Karla?
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. So, a key component to college applications and scholarships is a supplemental we like to call the brag sheet. So, as important academics are, some applications want to know a little bit more. So, they want to know how students spend their time outside of the classroom. And a brag sheet is a key tool during the season to give admissions officers and scholarship personnel more insight on who you are. So, a well crafted brag sheet can be used when you want to apply to pre college programs or internships. College applications mostly are UCs and our privates, scholarships, of course, and hand it off to our recommenders. The brag sheet should highlight your experience outside the classroom. And if you have any questions or concerns about the brag sheet, CAP offers support for juniors specifically in our enrolled course coming up in the spring called College 101, or come to drop in, and any PC would love to help you curate and craft an amazing brag sheet. So now I'm going to pass it back to Wendy to talk about factors you should consider.
Thank you, Karla. So there are over 4,500 colleges and universities throughout the US that offer really diverse environments. And we are really lucky that in the state of California, it's such a huge state and offers a diverse environments that students can choose from. So whether the student wants to stay locally in California and close to home is one factor to consider, or do they want to have more of a nature type setting like UC Santa Cruz, for example? Of course, there are options all throughout if the student wants to go out of state. And if they want to go somewhere on the other coast, just know that there are 4 seasons that those places have. We're lucky here that we're kind of very sheltered in kind of like a fall and summer situation only. Another thing to consider is if the student wants to go to a private, public, historically Black college or university, often referred to as HBCU, or if they're interested in colleges that have a religious affiliation. Again, students can apply to some private, some publics, some religious institutions. They can have a mix of colleges and universities they're looking to apply to. The size really comes into play when the student needs to consider what kind of learner they are. What kind of personality do they have? Do they learn better in a small setting versus a large setting? There are classes in some schools where they might be just 20 students to a class, and the professor really gets to know the student by name. Or if they go to a large institution, their classes, some of their classes, especially the intro classes, may be anywhere from several hundred students to maybe like 500 and above. So again, that really just depends on what the student prefers, what kind of learner they are, and their personality. Are they more of a timid, shy person and prefer a more intimate setting, or are they social butterflies and would thrive in any situation? We also want to ensure that the students' academic and personal goals will align with what the colleges offer. One thing to consider that often is overlooked is the graduation rates. Again, time is money, and any extra semester that is needed because the student wasn't able to access the classes they needed to be able to graduate in a timely manner needs to take notice, because every extra semester is going to cost extra tuition and fees and extra costs associated with that. So if they do have a low graduation rate for 4 and 6 years, we want to make sure that students are mindful and are proactive in ensuring that they get the classes that they need. Another big factor to take into consideration is housing options. Where is the student going to live when they go off to college? Some students are ready and want to have that full college experience and want to live on campus. And students will, if they decide to live on campus, will have the option between dorms, usually a double or triple for freshmen, or campus apartments. This will vary from one campus to another. Living on campus has a lot of benefits because students don't have to worry about commuting or parking or transportation. They simply go from the dorm, they go to the dining hall and eat, and they go to class all in the same place. This gives them an opportunity to build community, build a little bit of independence, although it provides minimal extra effort because they don't have to necessarily pay monthly bills the way that they would if they were to live off campus. So if a student chooses to live off campus in an apartment or a house with some roommates, that additional responsibility of paying the monthly rent, the utility bills, figuring out food, all of that needs to be taken into consideration. Of course, some students would prefer to live at home, and that is great too as an option. It can be cost effective, especially if they're looking at colleges and universities that are within driving distance or being able to transport using public transportation. Of course, living with extended family, if that means being able to go to a campus that's a little further out, but still be able to save on some of those housing costs would be beneficial. Now I'm going to pass it on to Karla to talk to us about factors to consider on developing a college list. Karla?
Thank you, Wendy. So, your college list is an important lever to control costs. So, a well rounded college list should include a mix of safety, target, and reach schools. A student can apply to as many reach schools as they'd want, but they should consider the application fees and the time required to complete each application. So, we will review all four systems, main colleges systems in California for students in the following slides. We want to make sure that everyone knows that college is an option for all students, regardless of their citizenship status. And we want to encourage students to be very intentional about the colleges that they're applying to. So to the left, we can see an example based on the student that will be submitting 10 applications. For a student who's submitting 10 applications, we recommend 1 to 2 safeties, 4 to 6 targets, and 1 to 2 reaches. So now let's break this down a little bit further. We will define these ranges a little bit more in depth, but please come to drop in to get a better understanding of what these ranges are specifically for your student or your circumstances. We'll be mentioning the NPC, which is short for the net price calculator, a tool that allows current and prospective students and families to estimate the net price of attending a particular college. The link is hyperlinked on the slide, but feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions or concerns on how to use that tool. So your safety target and reach are determined by your academics and your GPA compared to the average of admitted students from the previous layer of the year. So for a student to consider a school's safety, a student should be highly competitive with the GPA in the top 25% of admitted students. They can afford this college by living at home or based on the NPC. For a student to consider a school target, the student should be considered competitive with their GPA in the middle 50% of all admitted GPAs. They should be able to afford it based on the net price calculator and outside resources such as scholarships. For a school to be considered a REACH school, there's two possible scenarios for students. The student could be considered competitive, but the college could have a low acceptance rate of 20% or lower. 20% or lower, we consider a REACH for any student, regardless of GPA. Or the other scenario could be that their GPA is below the top 25% of admitted GPAs. They may be able to afford this college based on the net price calculator and outside resources. So it could also potentially not be a REACH school in terms of price for students. So remember, we review this with students and give them ranges tailored to their circumstances at drop-in. Now we're going to move it on with Wendy to do some practice together.
Thank you, Karla. So taking into account what we've learned about what is a safety college, what is a target college, and what is a reach college, we want to put that knowledge into practice now. So what we are going to do is take a look at the graphic that we have below. These are some colleges that Max, our student, is looking to apply to, and he needs help categorizing each of these colleges on whether they're a safety, a target, or reach. So if you look on the left-hand side, these are the 4 campuses that he's identified for Cal States. The acceptance rate, the higher the acceptance rate, that means the more students this college accepts. So for every 100 students in the example of Cal State LA, they accept 92 out of 100. Now we have the average GPA. Remember, Karla talked to us about the academic strength of the student. So we're looking at the average GPA of the Cal States for the previous year to just get an idea of how competitive that school is. We also want to look if it's financially accessible. So the tuition and fees is something that the student is going to have to pay regardless of where they live. But we put in the cost of these campuses, living on campus, in the event that Max would not be able to commute and would have to look at housing as an actual cost. So let's get into it. For Cal State LA, they have a 92% acceptance rate. So a high percentage is good, and a 3.56 GPA average. Remember, Max has a 3.7 GPA, so he is higher than the average. The tuition is $7,160, and he can commute from home. So this almost 20,000 doesn't necessarily have to be that much. Would we consider this a safety, a target, or a reach school? Okay, thank you so much, Karla. It is a safety. Next, we're going to go to Cal Poly Pomona. Many of you have probably heard of that campus. They also have a pretty high acceptance rate of 74%. The average GPA for them is a 3.69, and that is very close pretty much to what Max has at a 3.7. The tuition and fees, and he can commute if he chooses to. What would we say that is? A safety, a target, or a reach? Yes, it is a target because he's right on target with the GPA, right? And they also have a pretty good acceptance rate. Now we're going to look at San Diego State. So for San Diego, their acceptance rate, you'll notice, is significantly lower than the other campuses we've looked at so far. Their average GPA is a 4.0. Their tuition and fees are here, and Max cannot commute. So he really needs to take into consideration the possibility of having to live on campus. Is this considered a safety, a target, or a reach? Let's get that answer. And yes, it is a reach school because, again, he has a lower GPA, the acceptance rate isn't as high, and financially, he does need to take the living on campus as a real consideration. Finally, we have San Francisco State University. So for San Francisco, they have a great acceptance rate of 96%. Their average GPA was a 3.44, and Max again has a 3.7. And he can commute if he chooses to live with extended family. Is this considered a safety, a target, or a reach school? Let's see. Yes, it is a safety school. Thank you so much for participating. And now I will pass it on to Karla to talk us through more on a college list. Karla?
Thank you, Wendy. So, as Wendy mentioned, acceptance rate, the average amount of students admitted, and the middle 50%, the average GPAs of all admitted students, are key details students should think about when we're thinking about college lists and college costs. We do want to mention that some colleges will take more into consideration when thinking of admission. They do something called a comprehensive review. This can include supplemental materials like the brag sheet we mentioned and essay responses. They weigh all of these components when deciding to admit a student. I highly encourage students to reach out to take a look at our fast facts. So they're charts that are updated yearly by CAP high school staff, like the one to your left. And this is an important tool for students to start developing or develop their college list without having to go to each website searching for the information. Okay, so now we're going to move on to college options. Wendy?
Thank you, Karla. So one of the things that is a true concern and something thought-provoking for students is really the sticker price of a college. The sticker price is what we call the total cost of attendance. And sometimes that sticker price can give us a little bit of shock, and students may not even consider applying to a campus that may be considered more expensive. But one of the things we want to emphasize is not focusing so much on the sticker price, but the net price. And this is something we'll talk a little bit more on in our spring webinar called Understanding Financial Aid Offers. So don't shy away from those campuses that may have a larger sticker price, because what's really going to matter in determining the cost for the student and the family is the net price. Another key factor to consider when you're looking at campuses is housing. That is going to be a huge key factor. As we noticed with Max, he had to decide if this was a financial safety target or reach school as well. Will a student be able to live at home, commute, live with extended family, live on campus? And for some campuses, they may guarantee housing for the first year or up to the first 2 years, and some campuses may not have any guarantees. So making sure that students are applying to a wide range of campuses that will not only be a fit academically for them, but also for housing. Looking at historical financial aid packages is important. Some campuses are going to focus on merit-based scholarships based on the talent of a student, versus others that may focus more on need-based aid, which is determined by the financial need of the family. Again, another key component is considering those graduation rates, because time is money, and we want to make sure that students are able to not only start college, but also graduate within a timely manner. Up next, we're going to take a brief look at this chart without any dollar amounts. So when we plug in those examples for each of the colleges we're going to be reviewing soon, you'll have an idea of what those costs are with regards to direct costs, which you notice at the top on the left, versus indirect costs. So the tuition and fees are costs that get directly paid to the university, and they do not change regardless of where the student lives. Same thing goes for the campus fees. Because all students are required to have health insurance, some campuses or some institutions will list it as a line item as part of their cost of attendance, like the UCs do, and others do not. If your student will continue to be covered by their family's health insurance, please make sure that your student fills out the form so that that fee gets waived. The housing is an in-between direct cost or indirect cost, because if the student is living on campus, whether it's an apartment or dorms, that fee will get paid directly to the institution. However, if they're living at home, that'll depend on what the parents are going to be expecting of the student to contribute. The green for indirect costs is the book supplies, transportation, and personal expenses. And this is the three sections where students have the most control over. And while they will have, each campus will provide an estimate of the amount that they think a student will spend, it doesn't mean the student has to spend that total amount. And now I'll pass it on to Karla to give us an overview on our California options of colleges.
Thank you, Wendy. So now let's break down the college options offered in California. The four main institutions are our California community colleges, our California state universities, our universities of California, and our private colleges. So let's take a deep dive on each one and break down examples of costs. First, we're going to start with our California community colleges. There's 116 community colleges in the state of California. They offer occupational certificates. So that will be, for example, at PCC, you can get a certificate in automotive technology to become a mechanic, or a certificate in cosmetology to sit and take that state board exam. For Mount SAC, we also have veterinary technician, commercial pilot. So each community college is special in what they offer. There's also associate degrees. So this will be our degrees that we need to transfer. So all of the coursework in the first 2 years, or however long it takes to complete the associate's degree, will be transferred to a 4-year college or university if you choose to complete your bachelor's degree. Housing is not usually offered, so plan for that and eliminate a good chunk of those costs. They will use assessment questionnaires to place you at the right course level. Community colleges do use open enrollment, so all you have to do is graduate high school in order to be eligible to enroll. There's no GPA requirements. And for those who think that colleges isn't an option due to their GPA, all you have to do is graduate, and community college is an amazing option for you. If you've ever wondered or heard a rumor about the first 2 years of community college being free, well, this is not a rumor, it is true. It is possible thanks to the California Promise Grant. You get your fees waived up to 2 years, regardless of your goal being an associate's degree or an occupational certificate. You must fill out the FAFSA for the California Dream Act in order to qualify for this grant. In order to keep this grant, which is very important, once you're at the community college, you must maintain a cumulative GPA of 2.0 and successfully complete at least 50% of all the units you've attempted. Please check in with the community college you would like to go to see if there's any extra steps needed, as each college may implement the grant in different ways. So now we're going to look at an example. For this example, we will use Pasadena City College. So we can see at the very first box that says California resident. This example will be based on a California resident taking 12 units. So whether they're living at home or off campus, we can see that the term or the amount of that cost is not going to change, but keep in mind that if you qualify for the California Promise Grant, this number will be waived. For food and housing, most CCs do not offer food or housing options, but this is also still a factor we should consider. If families are willing to continue to have students live at home rent free, that's amazing. But please talk to your families to see how they would like you to either pitch in or how they would like you to overall assist the family dynamic at home. Again, our indirect costs are in green, so you have more control and you can use some budgeting skills or resources. So ensure you sign up for CalFresh if you qualify for the free groceries, or see if your community college has a free bus pass, which most do. So again, we have that miscellaneous and personal. These are all the places where you could save a significantly amount of money. Now I'm going to pass it off to Wendy to introduce our CSUs.
Thank you, Karla. So there are 23 Cal States throughout the state of California that students can choose to attend. The one furthest up north is Cal Poly Humboldt, and the furthest one down south is San Diego State. However, here we've highlighted a few that are available within driving distance to most students who are on this call. You'll notice that Cal State LA and Cal Poly Pomona have a little extra orange around them, and we'll talk a little bit more about why in a second. So if you get a chance and you're driving around, make sure that you visit some of these local campuses so that you can get a sense of what they have to offer. So for Cal States, if students are considering applying, here are some things to consider. First is that the minimum GPA to be considered is a 2.5 or higher. They also require what they call the A through G courses that most students will complete through their 4 years of high school. The application period opened up not too long ago on October 1st, and the new deadline is December 2nd. We do want to highly encourage students to try to finish their applications, their college admission applications, before the Thanksgiving holiday so they can actually enjoy their vacation. And CAP will be there to help support make that happen. Some campuses will receive a lot more applicants than they can actually accommodate. And when that happens, they become impacted. Sometimes it's a whole campus that's impacted, meaning it doesn't matter what major the student chooses, the entire campus is impacted. However, other campuses may have certain programs that tend to receive a lot more qualified applicants. And so for those in particular majors, they may utilize higher GPA thresholds and ask for supplemental criteria so that they can make an admission decision. I mentioned about the campuses that receive just so many more applicants than they can accommodate. And the campuses that are completely impacted are San Luis Obispo, which we call SLO, Cal State Fullerton, Long Beach, San Diego State, and San Jose State. Keep in mind that the housing options are going to vary from one campus to another, and they aren't covered by the federal or state aid. If your student is really looking for that living on campus experience, this is where we highly encourage students to really focus on applying to those scholarships. For our students who are on the call, for our Hacienda La Puente Unified School students, we encourage you to consider applying to Cal Poly Pomona as a financial safety. You also get a boost on your admissions process because that is your local CSU. For our Pasadena Unified School District students, Cal State LA is your local campus. Up next, we're going to look at the costs associated with attending a Cal State. For this example, we are showing Cal State LA. We want to highlight on the left-hand side just a few items, a few scholarship opportunities that are available for students to consider. There's CSU-wide scholarships and fellowships available, the middle class scholarship, and if your student is highly considering Cal States, please have them look into what campuses offer the President's Scholarship. Each campus that offers the President's Scholarship may offer different types of funding and resources and even just perks like priority registration. I know, for example, Cal State Fullerton and Cal State Long Beach both offer the President's Scholarship. If you look at the screen, you'll notice now the graphic with all these numbers plugged in. Remember, tuition and fees is going to remain the same regardless of where the student lives. We want to look at the estimated cost of attendance down at the bottom, and you'll notice that a student living at home is projected to spend about $26,900. Please remember that the line items in green are very subjective and don't necessarily need to be that high. This is also really going to depend on the student's budgeting skills. So we do encourage students to take advantage of, coupons, sales, buying at like wholesale, like a Costco versus, getting toothpaste at Vons. So if you notice, for living on campus, the difference is about 34,564 total cost versus the 26,900. Again, scholarships, scholarships, scholarships. It's so important. Up next, we have the University of California system. While they have 10 different campuses, 9 are listed here because these are the 9 that accept students directly out of high school. You may have heard of many of them, like UC Riverside, UCLA, Irvine, to mention a few of the local ones. If we look at the admissions and applying, their minimum GPA is a 3.0 or higher. They also require the A through G courses like the Cal States. We want to ensure that students know and keep in mind that most of the UCs will require way above the minimum 3.0 simply because most campuses receive a lot more qualified applicants than they can accommodate. When this happens, the GPA minimum goes up. Students are asked to select from 8 personal insight questions as options, and they only have to answer 4 of those 8. Oftentimes, students who are well qualified to apply to many of the UCs kind of shy away from them because of these personal insight questions. And CAP, like Karla, is here to help support. Standardized tests are no longer required for admission purposes. However, there are students who still choose to take the exams, and if they do and would like to share the results, they could with the UC campuses. They will be used for placement purposes only. Placement purpose for English, for math, that sort of thing. One of the neat things about the UCs is that it is one application and you simply have to click off the UCs that the student is interested in. So we do recommend that you don't mention your top UC because every single UC you apply to is going to see the same exact 4 personal insight questions the student answers. Their application actually opened up August 1st, but the dates for submission just opened up on October 1st, and they've also extended the deadline to December 2nd. Again, we want to encourage students to finish it before their Thanksgiving holiday. Some campuses may invite students to provide additional documentation. If your student is one of those, we want to highly encourage that they take advantage. This additional documentation can only help their situation, not hurt them. So please make sure that they are on the lookout if they are invited for that. Up next, we have the UC costs. For this example, we are using UC Riverside. Again, on the left-hand side, we have some scholarship opportunities that are linked up, like the middle class scholarship, the blue and gold, and for UCs, they also offer the California Dream Loan Program for students who are the CADA applicants. If you look at this example, the total estimated cost by living at home is looking at about $32,500, whereas living on campus is almost about $11,000 more. Again, it doesn't mean that the student shouldn't consider living on campus, but being realistic about if they really want that full experience, how committed are they to applying for scholarships to help ensure that the net price is going to be lower for the student and the family. Up next, I'm going to pass it on to Karla to walk us through the private colleges and universities. Karla?
Thanks, Wendy. So there's 85 private colleges and universities in California and thousands in the US. Cost of attendance and financial aid vary widely. Some private colleges may cost less than a public university due to the need-based aid they provide or the merit grant your student could qualify for. So please do your research. On campus, housing is common, but remember some have residency requirements. For example, Occidental College requires students to live on campus for the first 3 years, regardless of even if they live across the street. They vary in size, religious affiliation, graduation rates, and support programs. So if there's something you want to see on your campus, please make sure to take a look on the website or do some research, ask questions to ensure that that's on there before you apply. The minimum GPA in courses vary by school. For applications, you can apply on the Common App or the Coalition app. There is no preference for admissions officers. Some just exclusively use one or the other. Seniors on the call, please remember that they are going to be looking at your 7th semester transcript. So they're going to look at these grades right now before winter break to use that to see if they would like to admit you. Fees vary by school, but they range from $35 to $75 each. But there is an embedded feature on the Common App for the fee waiver, or I highly recommend reaching out to a recruiter or some kind of admissions officer on that campus. I've had some amazing experience with admissions officers offering my students fee waivers. You will need a brag sheet, so they want to know what you're doing outside of school. Most of them will ask for a personal statement. So, who are you? What major would you like? And why would you like to choose that major? Teacher recommendations are also very common, and some may still require standardized tests like the SAT and the ACT. So, if you're not sure if the private college you want to apply to or you're interested in requires that, please take a look as soon as possible so you can make time to take the test but also study and get the best score possible. For the example, we're going to be using USC. So again, for tuition is not going to change whether you're living on campus or off campus. Fees are not going to change either. For housing, we can see that housing changes significantly. But again, keep in mind what the family dynamics are and how your student might have to pitch in living at home or if they will be living rent free. For food and meal plans, that changes significantly whether you're living at home or off campus. And then again, in the green, we have our indirect costs. So books and supplies, personal expenses, and transportation. So again, making sure that you're using your budget saving skills, renting books. I know sometimes we want the really cute notebooks at Target, but ensuring that you're taking in consideration what are some needs and what are some wants. Aside from figuring out how to afford college, CAP is here to support you through a variety of things. CAP can help with college applications, college essays, resumes, career exploration, and financial aid. We are here to support you in your goals in the sense that we don't want to make you feel like we're making decisions for you, but rather help you plan out the next steps to achieve the goals you'd like to set for yourselves. Students who actively use our services and work with us throughout the fall will be nominated for our iHeart College program, which gives students access to CAP advising while they're in college, which is amazing. Through iHeart College, you're also nominated for CAP's partner scholarships, so exclusive scholarships just to iHeart College students, meaning a smaller applicant pool, which increases your chances of getting awarded. Now, Wendy will go over some resources we like to use besides our own.
Thank you, Karla. If you have the opportunity to visit colleges in person, that is obviously the preferred method to really get a sense of the college community and the vibe. I often tell students that colleges are like shoes. What might be comfortable and great for me may not be for someone else. If you have a long list of colleges, traveling to places further out may not always be possible. So we do recommend strategizing those visits and utilize technology to get a deeper dive. Listed here, we have a wide range of platforms that students and families can access, starting with the californiacolleges.edu. This is a statewide effort where they provide all of the different options that we've discussed between the UC, the Cal State, the privates, and the community colleges, where students can see. They can also do research and take surveys if they don't really know what majors they're interested in, or if they're interested in a major, what kind of careers that can lead to that. Through the pandemic, I think this got further developed, but the virtual college tours are also available. So, I mean, even if it's starting off with just getting a sense of what the colleges look like virtually, that's always a great opportunity. The Big Futures that is hosted through the College Board is a great platform as well for students to start saving that information, creating their college list, and saving a lot of their documents. You'll notice also there's the UCs, the CSUs, the independent colleges and universities, to name a few. Take advantage of any upcoming big school-wide events that they may be hosting, like open houses, welcome events that campuses typically tend to have in the fall and or the spring. Next, we'd like to invite you to provide your feedback. You will get an email with the link. We would invite you to take 30 seconds. Please let us know what you thought. What did you like? What did you learn? What were you hoping to get out of this? If there's any more information that you would have liked and hoped to see, we invite you to include that as well. We take this into consideration for our future programming, and we do really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. And I'll pass it on to Karla.
Again, thank you everyone for being here with us this evening. My name is Karla. I'm a program coordinator for the high school sites PHS, Muir, and Rose City in PUSD. The lovely other program coordinator in PUSD is Evelyn, which is at the sites Blair, Marshall, and CIS. The wonderful Hacienda La Puente team consists of Arely at Workman and Wilson, and Lizeth at La Puente and Los Altos. Feel free to reach out to any of our amazing PCs if there's any questions or concerns.
And if you'd like to reach out to our family engagement team, which consists of my manager, Natasha Mahone, please do reach out to us, or myself, Wendy. I know we've covered so much information, and we're hoping that even if this is a starting point, that you do reach out to us, whether it's your student going into CAP drop-in or connecting with their program coordinator at their campus or with one of us. We would love to support your student and your family as you go through this college journey. Thank you so much and have a great evening.